The email hit my inbox at 4:17 p.m. on a Friday. Classic corporate coward timing. Gives them just enough time to sprint to their Tesla and hit I-35 before you can process the rage properly. Subject: Compensation Review, Q3. Adjustment. I'm Christopher Hammond. I'm 48 years old. I'm the Senior Defense Systems Analyst at SecureLink Defense Solutions here in Austin. That means I'm the guy who actually reads the 300-page government contracts that the sales bros sign without looking past the dollar signs. I'm the one making sure we don't accidentally hand over classified defense protocols to some shell company in Belarus. I'm the guardrail on a highway full of drunk drivers. I didn't open that email right away. Let it sit there, bold and unread, like a bad diagnosis waiting to be confirmed. I took a sip of my bourbon. Yeah, I keep a flask in my desk drawer, sue me, and looked around our open-plan office that smelled like burnt coffee and desperation. To my left, the sales team was celebrating some deal with high fives and whooping. To my right, the marketing kids were filming some TikTok nonsense about hustle culture. I served 18 years in the Navy designing security systems for Pentagon contractors, spent 2 years at Norfolk Naval Base developing encryption protocols that are still classified. This startup circus still felt like watching children play with loaded weapons. Finally clicked the email. Hi Chris, thanks for your patience regarding the compensation adjustment request. We've reviewed your performance metrics which remain outstanding. However, due to current reallocation of Q3 liquidity into strategic acquisition channels, your raise got lost in legal. We simply don't have the approval pathway to push it through this cycle. Let's revisit next quarter. Best, Taylor, HR business partner, lost in legal. I stared at those 3 words. The irony was almost artistic. I am legal, or at least the backbone of it. Our general counsel, Jeffrey Parker, spends 80% of his time on the golf course and the other 20% asking me how to convert PDFs to Word documents. Jeff wouldn't know a budget approval code if it marched up and saluted him. This was the 3rd year in a row. 3 years ago, it was pandemic uncertainty. 2 years ago, market volatility. Now, lost in legal. Meanwhile, I knew for a fact that Taylor had just approved a $12,000 retention bonus for some junior developer who'd crashed our test server twice last month. I knew because I process all the NDA paperwork around here. Quick side note. If you're listening to this and you've ever been told your raise is in the pipeline while watching the CEO buy a new boat, hit that subscribe button. Helps fuel my soul and afford the good bourbon I need to get through telling this story. I didn't scream, didn't fire back with an angry email. I'm a professional. In the Navy, we had a saying, proper preparation prevents piss-poor performance. I simply took off my reading glasses, cleaned them with the microfiber cloth I keep for my rifle scope maintenance, and felt something cold and precise click into place in the back of my brain. It wasn't anger exactly. It was the same clarity I felt when our destroyer's radar picked up an unidentified contact in the Persian Gulf. Calm, calculated assessment of threat and response options. They thought I was furniture. A reliable, sturdy piece of equipment you use and forget about. They figured because I was quiet, because I didn't play ping pong during meetings, because I actually wore collared shirts instead of hoodies with startup slogans, that I had no leverage. They were wrong. I looked at that sales team again. They were celebrating the Vanguard defense contract, the crown jewel. A $65 million 5-year deal with one of the biggest defense logistics firms in Texas. The contract that was going to make SecureLink a serious player in the defense sector. The deal that paid for Preston Walsh's new corner office with the floor-to-ceiling windows. It was also a deal that I had architected, not the flashy PowerPoint pitch or the glad-handing dinners. I wrote the actual contract, the master service agreement, the IP indemnity schedules, the 48-page addendum on security compliance and royalty structures. I remembered that addendum very clearly. I'd written it 3 years ago, working late nights when the company was cash poor and desperate. We needed Vanguard to sign, but we couldn't offer them the upfront equity they wanted. So I crafted a performance-based royalty trigger. Complex stuff buried in legal language that would make your eyes bleed if you didn't know what you were looking for. Back at Norfolk, I'd learned that the most dangerous systems were the ones that looked harmless. A simple circuit board could sink $1 billion ship if you knew which wire to pull. This contract had the same principle: elegant, invisible, lethal. I stood up. My knees popped, reminder that I wasn't 25 anymore. Walked past the ping pong table. Hey, Chris. Smile, man. One of the account executives called out, bouncing a ball off the wall. It's Friday. I gave him a thin smile. Have a good weekend, Preston. Walked to the secure file room. Most everything's digital now, but the original Vanguard contract with wet signatures gets kept in the fireproof safe. I had the combination, of course. Only person who ever went in there. Room smelled like ozone and old paper. I spun the dial. Click, click, click. Pulled out the binder, 3 inches thick, navy blue, labeled Vanguard Defense Systems Agreement, executed copy. The weight of it in my hands felt familiar, like holding classified briefing materials back on the ship. Opened it to page 38, clause 11B. Ran my finger over the text. Times New Roman, size 10. Small, unassuming, deadly. In the event that licensor, SecureLink Defense Solutions, achieves 4 consecutive quarters of 99.94% uptime while processing classified defense data with 0 security breaches, licensor acknowledges that intellectual property rights for the core security architecture shall trigger a shared royalty model entitling the original systems architect to a retroactive commission of 0.45% of gross contract value, unless a formal waiver is executed by said architect. Checked the signature page. CEO of Vanguard Defense, our CEO, Preston, and at the bottom, Systems Architect, Drafting Analyst, Christopher Hammond. I closed the binder. The silence in that file room was heavy, but it wasn't empty. It was full of potential energy, like a loaded spring waiting to release. Lost in legal, I whispered to the empty room. My raise wasn't lost. It was right here, compounding interest for 3 years like a financial time bomb. Reminded me of the depth charges we used to drop in training exercises. Silent descent, then devastating impact. I slipped the binder into my briefcase. Technically, removing original documents violates company policy, but then again, so does wage theft, and I had a feeling that by Monday morning, company policy wasn't going to matter much. Spent the weekend in my home office, exact opposite of SecureLink's headquarters, quiet, organized, no ping-pong tables, just my bourbon collection, a chess set, and a German shepherd named Ranger who judges me from his corner bed. Had the contract. Now I needed the data. Clause 11B was a dormant trigger. It relied on performance metrics. If the company sucked, the clause meant nothing. If we hit the milestones exceptionally well, the clause woke up hungry. Logged into the admin dashboard. My access level is basically God mode. Not because I'm some hacker, but because 5 years ago our CTO got tired of manually approving my security audit requests and just gave me root access to everything. He probably forgot he did it. People forget a lot about me. Pulled the security reports for the last 24 months. Q1 2023, 99.96% uptime, 0 breaches. Q2 2023, 99.97% uptime, 0 breaches. Q3 2023, 99.98% uptime, 0 breaches. Q4 2023, 99.95% uptime, 0 breaches. 4 consecutive quarters. Milestones achieved 9 months ago. I sat back, blue monitor light reflecting off my glasses. The math was simple, but the implications were staggering. 0.45% of gross contract value. The Vanguard deal was $65 million over 5 years. That's $292,500, plus retroactive penalties for failure to notify, plus interest. We were looking at $350,000 minimum. But it wasn't just money. It was structure. I'd written Clause 11B as protection against hostile takeovers back when we were a startup, made the IP expensive if someone tried to steal it. The current executive team, most hired after I wrote that contract, had never bothered rereading the legacy agreements. They treated Vanguard like a cash cow, milking it dry, oblivious that the fence around the pasture was electrified. I printed everything, performance logs, quarterly reports where Preston bragged about these exact numbers to the board. Email from our CTO confirming flawless execution of Vanguard security protocols. I was building a fortress of evidence. Sunday night, I sat on my back porch with a glass of Maker's Mark. Watched the Texas sunset paint the sky orange and purple. Thought about Taylor's lost in legal email. He'd tried to save the company maybe $8,000 a year by denying my raise. Instead, he'd forced me to audit my own worth. I pulled out my phone. Didn't call a lawyer yet. Called someone who'd appreciate the irony as much as I did. In the defense contracting world, opposing counsel isn't your enemy. They're your sparring partner. If you're both good, there's mutual respect. Like the submarine captains I used to brief, adversaries who understood each other's capabilities. Dialed William Torres at Vanguard Defense, shark in a $1,000 suit, a man who'd negotiated treaties for defense contractors. He scared our executives. Chris, his voice was gravel and expensive scotch. Sunday evening. Either the servers are down or you're quitting. Neither, Will. Just doing some housekeeping. Reviewing that MSA we executed 3 years back, specifically the security royalty addendum. Long pause. I could hear him shifting in his leather chair. Clause 11B, he asked. He knew. Of course he knew. Good lawyers flag dangerous clauses even when they don't hurt their client. That's the one. Seems my company overlooked the notification requirements. Milestones were met 9 months ago. And they haven't paid you? His voice dropped an octave. Not pity. Predatory interest. Not a dime. Just denied my cost of living adjustment on Friday. Will laughed. Dry, sharp sound. Chris, that's extremely negligent. If they're in breach of payment terms to the systems architect, that compromises the security indemnity for the entire platform. Technically, SecureLink is operating our classified systems without valid licensing right now. Technically, I agreed. Thought you might want to know before I file anything. I appreciate the heads up. Lunch tomorrow? That steakhouse on 6th Street with the terrible lighting. See you at noon, Will. Hung up. My hand wasn't shaking. Felt calm for the first time in years. The same steady feeling I had during missile drills on the destroyer, controlled chaos about to become precision strike. Monday morning, I was back at my desk, answering emails, helping junior staff with formatting issues. Pleasant, professional. Watched Taylor walk past with his green smoothie and noise-canceling headphones. Didn't even look at me. Enjoy that smoothie, Taylor, I thought. Might be the last thing you digest comfortably for a while. Tuesday morning, 9:02 a.m. Office buzzing with usual caffeine chaos. Marketing arguing about font sizes. Sales ringing their literal cowbell because someone sold a $500 subscription. Then the email hit. Didn't go to me directly. Went to Preston, CEO, Chase, CFO, and Jeff, GC. I monitored the network traffic headers. Saw the email from Vanguard Legal enter our servers. Flagged high priority. 9:15 a.m. Preston. Forwards it to Jeff. Handle this. Probably standard compliance spam. Don't slow down Q4 pipeline. 9:30 a.m. Jeff forwards it to Chase. They're asking about royalty structures. Do we have any? Send generic financials. 9:45 a.m. Lands in my inbox from Jeff. Vanguard whining again. Chris, they sent formal nonsense about IP audit and Clause 11B. Sounds like legacy gibberish. Draft standard, we are in compliance response. Don't spend too much time. Focus on merger due diligence. Gee, I stared at the screen. Had to bite my cheek to keep from laughing. They hadn't read it. Hadn't opened the attachment where Will explicitly listed our security milestones. They saw Clause 11B, didn't know what it was, and forwarded it to the one person who knew exactly what it meant. They were asking the arsonist to investigate the smell of smoke. Hi, Jeff, I typed back. I'll log this in compliance tracker. Need to pull original files to verify Clause 11B language. Might take a few days to cross-reference with performance logs. Keep you posted. Chris. Sure thing. Take your time, Jeff replied instantly. Take my time. I wasn't taking my time. I was letting the clock run out. Will's letter demanded response within 48 hours. That meant Thursday morning. If we missed deadline, Vanguard reserved right to suspend payments pending investigation. Created a new folder on my encrypted drive. Contingency documentation. Dragged in, original lost in legal email from Taylor Jeff's email asking me to handle the audit regarding my own unpaid royalties. Slack conversation, where Chase joked about hiding profits to avoid bonus payouts. I archive everything. Never annoy the guy who manages data retention. Wednesday passed in surreal normalcy. Sat in meetings where Preston talked about radical transparency and valuing our people. Watched him present slides about our record-breaking security uptime. We are unstoppable! Preston cheered, fist-pumping. Vanguard is thrilled with our performance. They're thrilled with the performance, I thought. Less thrilled that you're stealing from the architect of that performance. Looked at Jeff during the meeting, scrolling Instagram under the table, completely forgotten about Will's email. To him, just another task delegated to the help. felt something in my chest. For years, I'd hated being invisible, hated being the guy in khakis who fixed problems while bros in hoodies took credit. But now, invisibility was a superpower. I was a ghost in the machine, planting explosives while they handed me matches. Thursday arrived. 48-hour deadline approaching. I didn't send the response, didn't draft the "we are in compliance" letter. Instead, updated the ticket. Status, pending legal review, awaiting executive sign-off. Technically, I was waiting for them to do their jobs, waiting for them to realize the cliff edge was right there. They didn't. 5:00 p.m. 5:00 p.m. Thursday. Deadline passed. 5:01 p.m. Text from Will. Radio silence. Bold move. They think it's spam, I replied. Delegated to me for review. Will sent back a single emoji. Popcorn. Trap was set. Now we waited for the snap. Friday morning. Executive finance meeting in the Disrupt conference room. Glass walls, uncomfortable chairs, $15,000 espresso machine humming in corner. Chase stood at the head of table, 35 years old, vest that cost more than my truck, confidence of someone who'd never been told no. Okay, team, Chase said, clapping hands. Vanguard payments looking weird this month. Accounts receivable says wire is pending. Anyone know why? My heart did a slow, heavy thud. Vanguard had frozen payment. Will moved fast. Bank holiday, maybe? Jeff suggested, spinning a pen. I'll ping them. Then Kevin Nash spoke up from the end of table. Kevin was our 24-year-old junior analyst. Smart kid, too smart. Actually, Kevin said, I was reviewing liability ledger yesterday. Saw a flag on contingent liabilities. Something about security royalty, clause 11B. It's accruing at like 0.5% of gross. Room went quiet. Chase frowned. Royalty? We don't pay royalties. We're a software platform, not a record label. It's in the legacy contract, Kevin persisted, tapping laptop. Clause 11B triggers on security milestones. System flagged it as liability because our uptime is so high. Chase looked at Jeff. What the hell is Kevin talking about? Jeff looked blank. Don't know. Probably old boilerplate. Ignore it. I can't ignore flagged liability, Kevin said, voice shaking. If auditors see this, Kevin, Chase snapped, we are not paying royalties. Delete the flag. Reclassify as system error. I watched Kevin. He looked uncomfortable, looked at his screen, then up at me. He knew I handled contracts. I held his gaze. Didn't nod, didn't shake my head. Just stared with neutral intensity that said, Don't be a hero, kid. Kevin looked back at Chase. But if the contract says, delete the flag, Kevin. God, why does everyone want to find problems? We're trying to scale, reclassify it, and move on. Kevin slumped. Okay. Reclassifying as error. He typed the command. Red flag disappeared from screen. They'd just committed financial fraud. Willful suppression of known liability in front of witnesses. I quietly wrote in my notebook, 10:14 a.m. Chase orders deletion of Clause 11B liability flag. Kevin complies under duress. Chris, Chase turned to me suddenly, you track IP stuff. We don't owe anyone royalties, right? This was the moment I could lie and protect myself short-term or tell truth in a way they wouldn't hear. The contract language is very specific, Chase. Clause 11B exists. It was signed by previous executive team. Whether you acknowledge the liability is an accounting decision, not contractual. See, Chase said to the room, legacy junk, accounting decision, and I've decided it's zero. Moving on. He heard what he wanted. You can decide. Didn't hear. You're breaking the law. After the meeting, Kevin slacked me. That clause had your initials on draft log. You wrote it, didn't you? I hesitated. Kevin was good kid. Didn't want him going down with the ship. Kevin, if I were you, I'd email Chase confirming his instruction to delete that flag. BCC your personal email for records. Is it that bad? Do it now. Saw Kevin is typing bubble for long time, then stopped. 10 minutes later, got BCC on email from Kevin to Chase. Per our meeting, I have removed the liability flag as instructed. Smart kid, just bought himself a life raft. Weekend felt like holding breath underwater. Vanguard froze payment Friday afternoon. Usually triggers alarms immediately, but Chase left early for networking retreat in Napa. Accounts receivable saw the error, emailed Chase, got auto reply, Decided it was Monday's problem. Perfect storm. Saturday morning with my personal attorney, Diana Rodriguez. Sharp, terrifying woman operating from strip mall office next to Thai massage parlor. Don't let location fool you. Diana ate corporate lawyers for breakfast. Laid it all out. The contract, emails, lost in legal rejection. Ignored Vanguard notices, notes from finance meeting where Chase ordered fraud. Diana read everything, face unmoving. Finally looked up over glasses. They are incredibly stupid. They're arrogant. Think rules are for other people. Diana smiled, revealing sharp white teeth. Rules are about to become very expensive. Strategy, Vanguard sues for breach. SecureLink panics. They try firing me for negligence. That's when we drop whistleblower suit. Retaliation, wage theft, Sarbanes-Oxley violations. I don't want to destroy the company, Diana. Just want my royalties and admission they were wrong. Chris, she said gently, you don't get one without the other. Sometimes you have to amputate to save the patient. Monday, 8:45 a.m., all hands meeting. Monthly ritual where Preston stood on actual stage and break room, telling us how we're changing the world. Room packed, people holding coffees, looking tired. Preston up there wearing Disrupt t-shirt under $2,000 blazer. This quarter is incredible. Vanguard expanding, looking at 25% growth. I stood in back, leaning against wall near exit, checked my watch. 8:52 a.m., double doors opened. Wasn't late employee. 2 men in dark suits walked in, not tech casual, federal court formal. Behind them, William Torres. Room quieted. Confusion rippled from back to front. Preston stopped mid-sentence. Can I help you, gentlemen? Will walked straight to stage. Didn't look at crowd, looked at Preston. Preston Walsh? Yeah. Who are you? One suit stepped forward, handed Preston thick stack of papers. You're being served. Civil lawsuit for breach of contract, intellectual property theft, willful noncompliance. Plaintiff. Vanguard Defense Logistics. Dead silence. Could hear espresso machine hissing. What is this? Preston laughed nervously. Is this a prank? We had a deadline, Will cut him off. Expired Thursday. You failed to respond to formal audit notice. Per Clause 11B, Section 9, Vanguard immediately terminates service agreement. For cause, seeking damages for unauthorized use of unlicensed IP. Terminating? Preston's face went white. You can't terminate. That's $65 million. Was $65 million. Now it's lawsuit for $95 million, including treble damages for detected fraud. Fraud? Chase squeaked from sideline. Reason to believe you suppressed known liabilities regarding systems architect royalties, Will said, scanning room until he found me. I didn't wave, didn't smile, just adjusted glasses. Your license to use the software is revoked immediately, Will continued, unless you can prove you've settled outstanding debts to the IP owner. Preston flipped through papers. IP owner? We own the IP. Read page 38, Preston. Clause 11B. You don't own it until you pay the royalty. And you haven't paid. Jeff grabbed papers from Preston. Scanned page. Saw the moment it hit him. Hands started shaking. Paper rattled audibly. The raise, Jeff whispered. The cost of living adjustment. He looked up. Looked at back of room. Looked at me. Every head turned. 200 people followed Jeff's gaze to where I stood by exit. I didn't shrink, didn't look down, walked forward. Crowd parted like Red Sea, walked right up to stage. Chris? Preston asked, voice trembling. What's going on? I think, I said, voice calm and clear. My raise just got found in legal. Pulled envelope from jacket pocket. Diana's letter of representation and whistleblower protection. Handed it to Jeff. Believe this belongs to you. Turned to Will. Shall we find a conference room? Seems we have negotiating to do. Will smiled. Shark-smelling blood. After you, Mr. Hammond. We walked out together. Behind us, silence shattered into absolute chaos. 10 minutes later, boardroom. Me and Will on one side. Preston, Chase, and Jeff on other. Heavy stack of lawsuit papers between us. Preston looked ready to vomit. Chris, look, we can fix this. Unlock that raise. Retroactive. 10%, 15%. I laughed. Genuine laugh. Preston, we're way past 15%. We're talking Clause 11B. Know what that is? Some loophole you hid in contract, Chase yelled, sweating. It's sabotage. Standard protection clause, Will interjected smoothly. Your company signed it, triggered it by hitting milestones, ignored it when notified. We didn't know, Jeff pleaded. Chris didn't tell us. I emailed you Tuesday. Subject, Vanguard whining again. You told me to handle it, prioritize merger due diligence. You didn't read it, Jeff. Jeff opened mouth, closed it. Knew I had the emails. Reality, Will said, leaning forward. SecureLink owes Mr. Hammond approximately $350,000 in back royalties plus interest. Because you instructed staff to delete financial liability flag. Yes, we know. You're looking at personal officer liability. Chase went pale. Kevin's fine, I said. Leave him out. So what do you want? Preston asked, defeated. The money? We'll pay $350,000. Make lawsuit go away. Can't lose Vanguard. Kills the company. Not just money, I said. Slid paper across table, term sheet I'd drafted. With Diana. 1. Immediate payment of back royalties, $365,000 with interest. 2. Formal company apology for administrative errors. 3. Reinstatement of royalty clause with penalty multiplier. 4. My legal fees. 5. Promotion to Director of Strategic Compliance, reporting to board, not legal. Full autonomy to audit executive expenses. Chase's eyes widened. Knew what was in those expense reports. You can't do that, Chase hissed. Then Will files lawsuit, I said simply. Discovery finds those receipts anyway. Your choice. Internal audit by me or federal audit by court. Silence. Air conditioner hummed. Preston looked at me. Really looked. First time in 5 years. Didn't see quiet guy in khakis anymore. Saw a person holding his life in hands. Fine, Preston whispered. Done. We'll sign. 6 months later. Corner office with Austin skyline view. Director of Strategic Compliance and IP Governance. The ping-pong table got moved to basement. Sales bros learned to knock. Company culture shifted from move fast and break things to read the contract and follow it. Kevin's now my senior analyst. We have strict policy. Flag everything, ignore nothing. Got email from Taylor last week. Annual compensation adjustment fully processed. No issues this time. I smiled. Took sip of expensive Japanese tea. Company expense account now. Hit reply. Thanks, Taylor. Make sure you file it correctly. Wouldn't want it to get lost in legal again. Closed laptop. Sun setting over Texas, painting sky purple and gold. They say devil's in the details. They're wrong. Devil's in the person who reads the details. And he just got promoted.